Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to do some bracketology for SEC basketball teams heading into the weekend. Blake, we got 10 teams on the board to talk about, various degrees of strength of resume, and let's start with the number one team. That is Alabama. The Crimson Tide, of course, did lose a midweek game to Tennessee, but everything with Alabama still screams number one overall seed, wins over Houston on the road, Arkansas, Auburn at home. Memphis also win at Missouri, win at Kentucky over home, Michigan State, North Carolina, Liberty. Alabama ranks quite well in predictive computers. We average BPI, Bart Torvik, Ken Pomeroy, Jeff Sager, and KPI. That averages to 2. Strength of resume, according to ESPN, number 1. Strength of schedule, number 8. Non-conference strength of schedule, 9. The Tide have played a lot of good teams and beaten a lot of good teams. If you want to maybe nitpick a little bit, it's that it won't have the high-end wins that the next team's got. I mean, very, very high-end wins. But look, we've watched Alabama play all year. We know that is a number one seed caliber team, and the committee is going to know that too, barring a collapse between here and there.
Do we know that Alabama's the number one seed? I mean, are they?
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes.
I'm just kidding with everyone. Yeah. I mean, again, that's where we said I don't think it lose to Tennessee and still be the number one seed, and they are. I don't think that would change as of today. I mean, they would still be the top overall seed, I think, and it's just the body of work they put together to this point is still worthy of that. It's we can. As always, we can kind of pick on one team, but it's what everyone else too has done around you. And when you compare Alabama's body of work to all the others, I mean, it makes sense why they're there. So, Purdue's on a 2-game losing streak now, so that's sent them backwards. They lost 3 of 4, so it's kind of taken them out of that equation. And again, if you're going to play the game of Houston versus Alabama, well, Alabama did win the head-to-head, even though Houston has 2 fewer losses. But the schedule's not as strong for Houston either. So yeah, I think that's it. I mean, 22-4, one of the toughest schedules in the country. One bad loss, I think you could say, and that was at Oklahoma, just based on how the loss happened. But everything else, it's just kind of, it looks like a number one seed. And as we said, right now, they'd be the top number one seed. So.
Yeah, if you want to nitpick, I'm looking at Alabama's team sheet. This is organized by net. It has played 4 top 10 net teams. It has lost 3 of those 4. Now, the win was at Houston. Losses at Tennessee, Connecticut, and Gonzaga on neutral floors, although neutral floor in Gonzaga's case was in Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't care. I can see.
So you're saying Alabama could get to the Final Four and lose to one of the other 3 teams, is what you're saying?
Yeah, something like that.
We're
just being thorough here. I'm not buying Alabama as anything as other than a number one seed or a great team. We go over all of it here.
You know what's going to happen. They're going to lose round 2, and everybody's going to come back for me for that one. So,
and you can point back to Friday, February the 17th.
There you go.
Okay. Have we talked enough about Alabama?
Yeah, I guess we can. We can move on.
Okay, Tennessee. The Vols, of course, have come under a little bit of criticism lately before the win over Alabama, but Tennessee's got a weird resume in some ways. Let's hit the highlights first. Tennessee right now has got wins over 3 teams that could all be number one seeds. That's Texas, Kansas, which Kansas is a number one seed in bracket matrix right now, and Alabama, which also is. And Texas is the first 2. So not a lot of teams can go into the tournament say they've beaten number one seeds. Tennessee might be able to say that. Tennessee beat Maryland on a neutral floor. Maryland beat Purdue last night for whatever that's worth. Tennessee's also beaten Auburn at home. Southern Cal on the road. Of course, we know about the flaws in the Vols' resume, which are as follows. Some weird losses. Kentucky at home, Missouri at home, Colorado on a neutral floor, and Vanderbilt on the road. All those are quad 2 losses. Quads 3 and 4, Tennessee is unblemished. The Vols had the number 14 strength of resume. They are 6 and 2 at Quad 2. They are number 44 non-conference strength of schedule and number 3 by the predictive computers. What else do we say about Tennessee here? The Vols are the number 1 3 seed on Bracket Matrix as we look at this on Friday. Again, that's probably lagging a little bit by a couple of days. And Joe Lenardi has not updated his, I think, since Valentine's Day. So I don't know if Tennessee's made its way back to the 2 seed line. I think I remember hearing that it had. But in any case, Tennessee has got a lot of strong bullet points on its resume.
Well, I already updated his this morning. It's they're still a 3 seed. So
Okay.
yeah. So they're still 3 in his. Now again, we're not gonna get into Lenardi's discussion. I get it, but this is what most people reference because it's what the SEC network references and all that. So we're just giving you that part of the equation for full detail. So yeah, I mean Tennessee is. I mean, like we said, we kind of discussed that on the one of the videos we did on Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day it was. They can beat the top teams. They've lost some games that have made you scratch your head, and that's kind of where they are. But when they're at their best, yeah, they're clearly one of the better teams out there, and they're clearly the best defensive team out there when they're at their best. And we saw that on Wednesday against Alabama. So, but yeah, it's still just like we said, it's Tennessee's not just they can beat anybody, but they can also, as we've seen in some of the games they've lost, they can also have some games where it's not all there offensively or however you want to draw it up. So, and they can lose to teams that maybe you feel like they shouldn't lose to. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting with them moving forward, just to kind of see, what's like I said. I mean, I think they're going to wind up in the 2 or 3 range. I just don't really, I don't really see them dropping very much, just based on the numbers and the metrics and all that. But of course, you start losing games, anything can happen. But I mean, look, their remaining schedule is at Kentucky, at A&M. Those are 2 losable games, if you will. South Carolina at home against Arkansas, at Auburn. So 3 tough road games, but you just think about what happens if they pick up 2 of those, right? I mean, it's just those are strong wins. Those are quad 1 wins. So, yeah, so a lot of opportunity still left to improve this resume as it stands right now, which is already pretty impressive. So, yeah, I think the Vols are sitting in a nice spot.
Yeah, we got the dreaded update between my show prep 30 minutes before the show and actually recording. So I'm, as you are talking, I'm fiercely checking bracketology. Next team up is, best I can tell, Missouri, 8 seed in bracket matrix. In fact, the first 8 seed. 8 seed in Joe Lenardi is a Friday morning. Number 18 strength of resume, 33 strength of schedule, 190 non-conference strength of schedule. Predictive computers are not crazy about Missouri, ranking them 51 between the 5 we use. The high on that being KPI, which I think weights wins results more than the others. Anyway, good wins at Tennessee, Iowa State at home, Arkansas at home, Illinois neutral floor, Kentucky at home, and UCF on a neutral court for whatever that's worth. Kind of been the same story with the Tigers for a while. The predictive metrics aren't crazy about Missouri, but Missouri started banking good wins in the non-conference portion. That's carried over to the league, and so long as Missouri just doesn't wet the bed between now and then, the Tigers are going to be in pretty safely on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I'm always hesitant to say that, but they've done a pretty good job, like we said, just based on the quality wins they picked up to this point. Keep knocking on wood, Missouri fans. They've kept a clean sheet, with bad losses, but as we said, the last 3 games of the season, they'll have 3 opportunities to do that: at Georgia, at LSU, home against Ole Miss. But they've done a lot of good work, and I think probably you don't want to call any schedule easy, but when you compare their schedule to some of these other teams the rest of the way, theirs feels way more manageable. A&M and Mississippi State, their 2 toughest games are at home, and as we just said, the 3 teams, near the bottom on the final 3 games. So yeah, that's kind of where Missouri's at right now. And I think again we're just using this as a reference, but I put this on Twitter. If you look at Lenardi's updated bracket, here's Missouri's path to the Final Four. All right. And by the way, there's this in our house right now. There is like a very strange, obnoxious noise that like is it may be part of the whole UFO thing. I don't know, but like it is. It's got to be like used as a form of torture somewhere because this is just absolutely. It's been doing this for like 2 hours and it cannot figure out where the noise is coming from. So it's just this. It's terrible. Let me just put it that way. So I'm kind of thrown off right now, but um, so Missouri's path to the Final Four would be Duke in the first game in the 8-9 game, Kansas in the second game, which we've seen that one already. UConn as the top seed is the 4, or St. Mary's is the 5. Then it's either Arizona as the 2 or Virginia as the 3. So if you're a Missouri fan, I would root against this bracket because this is a brutal bracket here. So I would want to stay away from this one. Duke matchup not the worst as the 8-9, but I would want to stay away from Kansas in round 1 or round 2, excuse me. So, and then the rest of them, UConn playing at their best, I'd want no part of them. St. Mary's the same way, and Arizona and so forth. So I wouldn't love that for Missouri and my guy Dennis Gates, but my guess is it probably won't fall exactly that way. But yes, Missouri's sitting in a good spot right now, and they just need to, win these games they should win. Maybe split A&M Mississippi State, or even win both. They'll be fine.
Joe Lenardi might need to rebalance that bracket.
Yeah, it's a brutal one.
Yeah. Okay, also on the 8 seed line, according to Bracket Matrix, Auburn, the 4th number 8 seed. Lenardi has Auburn as an 8 seed. The computers have loved this team all year. Nets got Auburn at 27. The Tigers inside the top between 17 and 21 in the 5 predictives. I guess KPI really isn't predictive as much, but the 5 that I look at, Auburn is anywhere from 17 to 21, which is an average of 19. Strength of resume, 29. Strength of schedule, 46. Big wins are Arkansas at home, Northwestern on the road. That looking a little better. I couldn't hit the mute button in time. And Missouri at home, which Auburn picked up in fine fashion this week, just destroying Missouri from start to finish. So Auburn still got a bit of a quality wins problem, but the good news is all the computers think Auburn is a tournament-worthy team, and I think we do too.
Yeah, we do right now. I think, Auburn's one of those teams that I think they're going to be okay. But, as we said, they got one of the tougher schedules left, I would say. At Vanderbilt, it's not going to be easy. They got Ole Miss at home, should win that one. But then they're at Kentucky, at Alabama, home against Tennessee. So this is a team that was coming off of losing 5 of 6. They beat Missouri in impressive fashion, just the way you wanted them to. If you wanted to see a nice response from the Tigers, but you kind of wonder what happens if they finish 2-3, or 1-4 or something like that. Like, those are the kind of things that I think becomes interesting. I think they'll get at least one of those road games. Like I said, it's at Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Alabama. The Tennessee game's a huge one to end the season. That can, let's say you don't fare well in those 3 games, in those 3 road games. With a Tennessee win at home, there's some motivation there that you can maybe finish your season to clinch that bid if they beat Tennessee at home. So, yeah, I think Auburn's going to be okay, but they're not safe by any means at this point because they do have a tough remaining schedule, and as of right now, like you said, it's really about just finding more quality wins, and they're going to avoid the bad losses, assuming they don't lose to Ole Miss just by virtue of not having to play teams like that. Now, you never know in the SEC tournament, right? Auburn could be I don't know, a 5 or something, and have to play one of the Wednesday night teams, and you lose that one, then all bets are off. So that's kind of the situation you don't want to put yourself in, but for now, it helps having the clean sheet in 3 and 4. But yeah, they need to pick up a couple of these wins. Would be nice because they don't need to finish like 1-4, 2-3. I think they need to do a little more than that if they want to feel really good about kind of where they are. So
yeah, the issue is that 2-6 record. in quad one, and two quad two losses also.
Yeah, so just get more good wins, which they have the opportunity to get. So that's kind of what it comes down to.
Okay, next up in Joe Lunardi's bracket, Texas A&M at number 9. You've been calling this one for a few days. That Arkansas win really catapulted A&M from bubble-ish to solidly in at the moment. But the Aggies, as we've mentioned for some time, have a weird resume. The computers love A&M, averaged at 27 between the 5 I used. The Nets got A&M today at 31. So the net tracks pretty closely with those computers. 19-7 overall, 13-1 at home, 4-4 against quad 1, 2-1 quad 2, 5-0 quad 3, 8-2 quad 4. The problem for A&M, overall schedule, number 81. Out of conference schedule strength 255, and the wins that the Aggies have racked up starting to look a little better, but nothing really high end in terms of like a top 4 seed. Best wins are Auburn twice, Missouri, Arkansas, and for what it's worth, a couple of wins over Florida that I don't think are going to matter much in the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I think a team that's where they are in league play now at 11-2, it's just
That's
that
going to be
has to
pretty
account for.
wild. Yeah.
I mean, I get that they lost 2 quad 4 games, but they're 11-2 in the conference. That has to account for something, especially if you're telling me that the SEC is going to get 6 or 7 teams in. It's got to account for something. So, because it's like you want to talk about opposite ends, like A&M is, like you said, they're 11-2 in the conference. For some people, they're not that far off from a Mississippi State who is 5-8 in the conference. So, you want to talk about kind of figuring that one out, which again, it is understandable based on the 2 quad 4 losses. But at some point, my goodness, like I said, they have to be there. You can't ignore them, but I think you also can't ignore what they've done since then, and they've been pretty good since then. So 4 quad 1 wins, and yeah, I mean, just it's taking them a while, to get back up there because the overall, the non-conference strength of schedule is not very good, and those kind of things. And again, we talked about a lot of the stuff last year when trying to figure them out, but I think it'd be more crazy this year if they don't get in versus last year. I would make the strong argument this year that they should get in. Again, assuming that they don't have a bad finish, and that's where I think someone asked me on Twitter, you know, why is Ken Palm projecting that A&M going to lose 3 more games in the SEC? I just don't see it. I said, well, I can tell you exactly why, because they got to go to Missouri, they play Tennessee at home, they got to go to Mississippi State, they go to Ole Miss, and then they play Alabama at home. So that's why is they could pick up some losses here down the stretch, and so I think that's something to keep in mind here too. And that's what we've said before is what happens if that happens, like. How far do you start to go? Now, again, that depends on who you lose to. You lose to Ole Miss, well, then that gets, very dicey. Assuming you don't win the majority of the other ones or something. But I just, I think they're going to get in. And I said that weeks ago. I just feel like that based on what they've done and how they're playing, if we're predicting ahead, I think this is a team that's going to win some of these games and be in the tournament. I hesitate again to say safely, but if they're 13-5 or something in the league or 14-4, that's an NCAA tournament team.
Next up, the Arkansas Razorbacks. And this is just an increasingly weird team to talk about because Nick Smith Jr. is back, which that generally gets considered when key players miss time, but Nick Smith Jr. is barely playing. Arkansas is down to the third 9 seed in bracket matrix. It's down to a 10 in Joe Lunardi. The predictive computers love Arkansas. The 5 that I use, again, KPI, not exactly a predictive computer, but it's one I ranked in here. Average Arkansas at 22. There's some nice wins there. San Diego State back around Thanksgiving. That was on a neutral floor at Missouri. A&M at home at Kentucky. The Razorbacks are 2-6 quad 1, 4-2 quad 2, 8-1 quad 3. That quad 3 loss was to LSU, which I'd almost forgotten about. And other things here. Arkansas just 2-6 on the road, 3-1 neutral. I mean, there is no question Arkansas has got the talent to win several games and ease into the field, and I really wouldn't want to play them, but it's just a strange spot where the Razorbacks are right now.
Yeah. I mean, they are going to be one of the more fascinating ones to watch here because you kind of, I mean, you said it, 2-6 in quad one. And that's what we keep saying. If you're in this kind of situation, you just got to rack up as many quality wins as you can and avoid bad losses. Because, like you mentioned, the LSU losses there, and yeah, we talk about schedules the rest of the way, right? Like they should win their next. I kind of said this in a previous video. Like these next two are must win for Arkansas. Like they got to beat Florida at home. They got to beat Georgia at home. Like those are no questions asked. Like they have to win those two games. Then it comes down to what a closing stretch, right? At Alabama, at Tennessee, home against Kentucky. I think if they beat Florida and Georgia as they should, win one of those three, I think they're okay. Now again, that's assuming they don't lose to someone bad in the SEC tournament if they're matched up there somewhere. So I just think, yeah, that their spot has become more tricky because we were talking about kind of looking at they were 6-5 in the league after they won at Kentucky, and you felt like everything was headed in the right direction. Well, now they've lost to Mississippi State home, they've lost at A&M, and some more pressure now put back on them because they are 6-7 in the league. And once again, I still think if you're in this year's SEC, I still am of the opinion you need to be at least 500 to to really have a strong case. If the committee were to say, that team just went 8-10, and half the SEC is a bubble team right now, and got a quad 3 loss, and those kind of things like that. That's where the things start kind of snowballing a bit when you have that conversation about teams, because you can start to find things to pick them apart. And so, yeah, Arkansas doesn't want to put itself in that situation, but to me, it's they're not unlike some of these other teams right now. The next game is the biggest game, like that. They're now in that spot where the next game is the biggest game, and Florida is the biggest game right now. After that, if they win that one, Georgia will be the next biggest game because again, these are games I think they have to win, and so we'll see. Committee will factor in the Nick Smith thing, but I mean, if he plays 4 minutes,
but what does that mean at this point, right?
well,
I
that's what I
mean,
mean. If he doesn't play, then I
right,
mean, they're going to factor
then it
just him
won't
being on the
matter.
bench or playing 5 minutes. I don't think that's going to carry as much weight as you would think. So, yeah, Arkansas, I think, has become the more, probably outside of Kentucky. I mean, I think Arkansas is the team that is going to be the most fascinating to watch here down the stretch to see how it unfolds.
Blake, Joe Lenardi gave us what we've been begging for. Did you see it this morning?
Yep, Kentucky, North Carolina. Why wouldn't you?
Kentucky, North Carolina, and Dayton. Because why wouldn't you?
That's exactly
What, what if
by
you
the way,
what if you threw
exactly
Arkansas
what
and
they're going
Dayton
to do.
too?
I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
If that's the setup, let's not kid ourselves. Like if Kentucky and North Carolina are among the last 4 teams in the field, it will be structured to where somehow they're going to face each other. Even if Kentucky is like the 4th team in, North Carolina's the 1st team or the 2nd team, whatever. Like no, we're going to shuffle that around to make sure this is the game we get. 100%. Like there's no questions asked. So you could also put Kentucky against Wisconsin if you really want to go full circle, because boy, you're like, well, think back to Kentucky as at its height under John Calipari, and then the fall began. I guess you could say with the Wisconsin game, so we can go full circle there too. But yeah, Kentucky, North Carolina, first 4. Whew.
Let's do a first for that, and let's do Arkansas and Wisconsin.
Mm.
Can you imagine the TV ratings for that?
Yeah, it'll be probably higher than some of the first round games. So
right.
I mean, it's
let's
certainly
find a way to get a first 4 that was people's preseason Final Four. How do we do that?
Well,
Can
think
we
about
drop
this.
Duke down there?
Think about this. All right, so Memphis is also like they're close to the last 4 in. So like you could put Kentucky, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Memphis. That's all I'm asking for. I'd give me Kentucky and Memphis because you want to talk about setting off an absolute You want to talk about not being a winner in any instance? John Calipari, if he found himself in a Kentucky-Memphis game in the first 4, poor Cal would not. No one's winning. He's not winning on any. Even if they win the game, he's not winning that. Like that's. You got Memphis fans who are not happy with him. It's just wow. So yeah.
All right, let's talk the Cats. Dream scenarios aside. Kentucky up to 8-5 in the league, 17-9 overall, 39 in the net, 4-4 quad one. I'm sorry, 4-4 on the road, 2-7 quad one, 6-1 quad two, 3-0 quad three, 6-1 quad four. The 5 computers I like average Kentucky at 39, for whatever that's worth. Wins at Tennessee, A&M at home, Mississippi State on the road, and Florida at home. I guess that's a quad 2 win now. I guess it's been a quad 2 win for a while because it's at home. But anyway, I don't know what beating the Gators is going to be worth, but just threw it in there in case. Okay. What more can we say about Kentucky that we haven't?
Well, boy, Kentucky would be they'd be in a different spot if that South Carolina game didn't happen. Play the what ifs all you want, but like that's the biggest one that still stands out is losing that game. And of course, the second biggest thing that stands out when you look at it is the 2-7 in quad one. So, but like we said, they now have a huge opportunity on Saturday against Tennessee. Add another one to the mix. They will, depending on I guess where some of these teams wind up falling. They go to Florida, home against Auburn, at Arkansas. I would assume still the at Arkansas is going to be a quad one. There's no way it wouldn't be, no matter what happens with Arkansas the rest of the way. So that's a big opportunity. Auburn, I guess. Let's see, where's Auburn at right now? Are they? Would that be a quad one as of right now? It would be, wouldn't it?
Auburn is 27 in the net, so that's a quad one win anywhere.
As of right now, right? It would be.
Right.
But if they lose to Vanderbilt, then maybe it slips back.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So I think if you're Kentucky, that's not a bad thing to root for. To keep Auburn in the top 30 because that's a home game. So yeah, I mean that's it. They just need to, they pick up a couple more of these wins, which the Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas. If they can win 2 of those 3, which 2 of the 3 are at home, I think the Cats are feeling really good about themselves. But if they put it in the, I say all this to know that Kentucky can still win the SEC tournament. Like this is what they do. Like they just, we know they perform well in the tournament most years. Not saying it's every year, but so I think that's always something too you have to keep in mind with Kentucky is you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to do some things in the SEC tournament that will, kind of put them. Now again, I realize it's not always the case, but historically, you can look at just kind of their success in that tournament. And so something else to consider that they will probably do a little more work for themselves once they get to that. Because as of right now, they would be let's see. They'd be the what? 5 seed? What's the tiebreaker between them and Auburn? They haven't played yet, have they? So, or am I just forgetting?
So.
Yeah, so they haven't played yet. So they're tied. I don't know what the tiebreaker is. Don't ask me. They'd be either the 4 or the 5 right now. So, in the tournament seeding. So, yeah. So I mean, it's kind of it's simple for the Cats. Just win a couple of these games that you need to win against quad one opponents. Don't lose at Florida. Don't lose at home to Vanderbilt, and they'll be fine. But that's asking a lot still of a team that's been pretty inconsistent. So.
Yeah, just double checking you there. They've not played Auburn that February 25th. So,
yeah.
Okay, Mississippi State. I think bracket matrix is lagging a couple of days here. It has State as the number 4, 11 seed in the field right now. Lenardi has State as the first team out after Kentucky beat the Bulldogs in Lexington this week. State's millstone around its neck right now is that 5-8 record against SEC teams. State is 3-4 on the road, 4-1 neutral, 10-4 at home. Quad records. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3 and 5, 2 and 4, 3 and 0, 9 and 0. Strength of schedule 44, non-conference strength of schedule 231. That could really hurt. However, State's got 4 wins right now against teams that would be in the field if it were picked today, we believe. Marquette on a neutral floor, TCU at home, Missouri at home, Arkansas on the road. Now, look, I know TCU was banged up, but that's still going to go in the books as a nice win. State has got a tough road ahead of it and just can't afford to lose many more games.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. I'm not going to repeat the same thing I always repeat and what they need to get to SEC wise. I'm still in the belief that's the case, but I don't know. Who was it? Was it Justin that pointed out that he thought this was a good bubble in our live stream? This bubble is not great. I'm looking at some of the teams around Mississippi State, and I don't know about this bubble. But again, they got to field 68, as we always say, and maybe Mississippi State can get in if they go 8-10 in the league. I wouldn't bank on it, but it's possible, I suppose, depending on the combination of wins and losses. But I mean, look, here's a team, as you said, non-conference strength of schedule is not great, although they did grab a huge win there against Marquette.
2 huge wins.
2 huge wins. Who else did they beat?
Big 12 challenge.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was sorry. I was thinking of the pre-conference.
Yeah,
no,
that one was scheduled for them, but
sorry.
still.
Yeah, I was thinking before SEC play, but yeah, you're right. TCU game. But like, yeah, I mean, okay, but the overall non-conference strength of schedule is not great. More than half of their wins have come in Quad 4. So I think that's worth considering too. But they have, like you said, they have racked up some good wins, and I think that is, and they still have not. They don't have a bad loss, but they do have those 4 Quad 2 losses. It's just I feel like sometimes they're just, me, the computer guy over here. Just all these terms we throw out: quad this, quad that. Can they play basketball? Are they good at the game of basketball? That's what I want to know.
Well, let's put it in English a little bit, okay? Looking at bracket matrix, Marquette is a 3 seed right now. There's a win. TCU is a 5 seed right now. Missouri's an 8. Arkansas is a 10.
I do think the TCU win is good, but if the committee is,
it's going to be brought up. Yeah,
it's going to be brought up that TCU is without their best player. But it still counts, and so I think we have to remember that. But it's one of those where, like, if it becomes borderline, right, and let's say you're the last team in or the first team out, that probably comes up in the conversation. So, like it or not, it probably does. But I think the win at Arkansas was, kind of a late season win that looks good right now. That's where Mississippi State, I think you're rooting for Arkansas to get in because you need that win to look better. But yeah, I mean, look, remaining schedule at Ole Miss, at Missouri, home against A&M, home against South Carolina, at Vanderbilt. And that's the thing. We're like, well, they should finish with a good record. But the problem becomes, not a ton of those wins are necessarily going to push them in the right direction. But the 2 that will, I mean, I guess, again, Vanderbilt, how they finish too is important for Mississippi State. You actually need to be rooting for Vanderbilt here because that's the last game of the season. It's on the road. If Vanderbilt can finish strong, then you get that game starting to move up a bit, right? Because let's see, right now, Vanderbilt is what are they in the net? 90, 89?
91 in the net. So that game's in Nashville. That would be a quad 2 win. Vandy moves up to,
but yes,
75?
They got to get to 75.
Quad 1 win.
Yeah. So I think you're Mississippi State. First of all, you're taking care of your business, but you're also rooting for a very strong finish for Vanderbilt because they can absolutely get into the top 75 if they finish strong. But again, you need to win that game. But if you lose it, it's still only quad 1 at that point. So yeah, it's a lot of, it's like we can still play so many what ifs at this point because there's still 5 games left. But after the next 2, then it starts to get more interesting. So it's just like Mississippi State, you really need to beat Ole Miss on Saturday. That's priority number 1. I told you, for some reason, I think that's a tricky game. And they lose that one. They're dropping to, I don't know how far, but they're dropping. So they wouldn't be in the field. I can tell you that at that point. But and it would also put them at 5-9 in the league with 3 tough games left of the 4. So again, if we're making our predictions, and I just think this path for Mississippi State to get in is tough. But well, I guess we'll find out.
It feels like the league's going to get 7. And it's probably the first 7 we mentioned.
Could you imagine the SEC getting 8 teams in?
It'd be great for us.
Yeah, but I don't know. This SEC to get 8 teams in would just be something.
I know.
Because literally half those teams would be
well,
bubble
I mean,
teams.
and you could be 6 of the 8 would be. Our apologies to the audience. We've got an audio delay due to my internet issues here between Blake and I, so we're not intending to talk over each other. Yeah, I mean, it could be 6 of the 8 is 8s or lower, Blake.
Yeah, that's we'll see. I don't know. Mississippi State, I think, just got an uphill climb now at this point after losing that game to Kentucky, but they got to field a tournament, and so just get to the magic number. Maybe 8 and 10 does it at this point. I don't know. Given what the bubble looks like, 8 and 10 may be enough. I may change my tune on that. I think 9 and 9 is the recipe for success. But
okay, we got 2 other teams that are very much on the outside looking in, and I suspect will remain there in order that they would probably be considered right now. I mean, not that Florida's really considered, but it's 51 in the net, 14 and 12 overall, 7 and 6 in the SEC. Vanderbilt has the exact same records, but is 97 in the net. And when you compare quadrants, Florida 3 and 5 on the road, Vanderbilt 4 and 5, Florida 2 and 3 neutral, Vanderbilt 1 and 2, Florida 9 and 4 at home, Vanderbilt 9 and 5. Quad 1, Florida 2 and 9, Vanderbilt 3 and 9, or 3 and 7, excuse me. Florida 1 and 2, Vanderbilt 3 and 3 in quad 2. Quads 3 and 4, Florida 7 and 1, 4 and 0, Vanderbilt 2 and 1, 6 and 1. Strength of resume, Florida 70, Vanderbilt 69. Strength of schedule, Florida 21 and Vanderbilt 16. Non-conference strength of schedule, Florida 56, Vanderbilt 120. And the computers rank Florida 49th and Vanderbilt 82nd. Vanderbilt's got better wins. Both teams beat Tennessee at home. Vanderbilt's beaten Arkansas, Pitt at home. And, of course, Vanderbilt just beat Florida on the road. Florida's also beaten Missouri at home. I may not have presented that in great order, but anyway, it is what it is at this point. But here's where we're going to go. Florida's lost Colin Castleton maybe for the season. I don't see this team going anywhere. And Vanderbilt has got to be almost flawless between now and the finish if it's going to be in the discussion on Selection Sunday. Now, I think if Vanderbilt were to run the table, go 5-0, that would include wins home against Auburn and on the road against Kentucky. 4-1, Vanderbilt might even get in the discussion. But Vanderbilt has got a difficult road to thread because it starts far behind in the computers. Maybe the Commodores can do it. I don't think it's very likely. And Florida, I just don't see it without Castleton.
I think Vanderbilt's got a better shot than Florida at this point, even how far they are behind in the computers. So, 4-1 maybe with that one loss coming at Kentucky. I think they got a shot at that point to at least make it interesting in the SEC tournament. But again, their problem is they got to jump about 30 spots in the net. And I just don't know. I don't even beating Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State. I don't think you're jumping 30 spots. Now you win them all. If you win at Kentucky, you're jumping 8 spots alone, probably just on that win. But it's a lot to ask. I think they 4-1 in the regular season. I think it's like a get to the championship, the tournament maybe. But I'm discounting Florida's chances, and who knows? Maybe Florida rallies, and without Castleton, I just don't see it. So Vanderbilt's got a long way to go, but I actually think I would like their chances more than I like Florida's.
Yeah, I'm with you. Any parting thoughts on bracketology? We're doing this Friday. You got games of significance this weekend. Auburn goes to Vanderbilt. Tennessee goes to Kentucky. Arkansas really needs to pick up a win against Florida at home. Mississippi State cannot afford to lose at Ole Miss. And then you've got A&M and Missouri is probably the game, along with Tennessee and Kentucky, with the most implications at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's an interesting weekend. We've already previewed all the games. You can check out that video if you want to, kind of hear our thoughts on all the matchups. And it's just, yeah, it's as we say, every game is a big game now at this point. If your team is on the bubble, doesn't matter who you're playing. There's some significance to it somewhere somehow, and so yeah, it makes for a lot of fun games here the rest of the way, and the SEC tournament will be here before you know it. And so you can follow everything we're doing, and we'll have a lot of stuff during the SEC tournament, by the way. So especially if you're traveling to Nashville as well, we may have some fun stuff for you. Perhaps meeting up for a live show, those kind of things. So a lot of things in the works, but hit that subscribe button and you will follow it all with basketball. SEC baseball starts today. We got a lot of football stuff cranking up next week. So yeah, hit subscribe.
He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week with a ton of stuff, including another bracketology and probably two. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss them, and we'll see you then.